We thought that the answer to housing affordability was in construction. Built 10 Nightingale projects. Our view on that is that the affordability piece actually happens much more in structuring and finance costs, impact investors, lower cost of equity, lower cost of debt. It's got the highest ratio of bikes to apartments in Melbourne and in Australia. The Commons was one of the first buildings to be built, and the idea was that that would be a beacon of hope for other developers coming in, affordability, sustainability. But what actually happened was that we're still kind of business as usual. The Commons was born and make sure that the Commons was seen as a trend or a pathway rather than a blip on the radar. So it would be seen as the rule rather than the exception. My name's German McLeod. I'm the founder and design director at Breed Architecture. And the project that I want to talk to you about is the Commons, a triple bottom line apartment building that's trying to reshift the agenda on housing in Melbourne. It's located in Brunswick, place of urban renewal. It's an old industrial area, and it's 6 kilometres north of the centre of Melbourne. It's right next to a train station, a bike path, a bus line, and light rail. In Melbourne, we like to call them trams. Very eclectic, diverse community here. There's waves of migration that roll up north, the kind of Turkish and Lebanese quarter. The site size is 750 square metres. There's 24 apartments.
Condo.
Correct. 16 2-bedrooms, 8 1-bedrooms. There's a shared rooftop garden, shared rooftop laundry, 4 small retail spaces downstairs, a yoga studio, an organic wine shop, a cafe, and an architecture studio. So this is Florence Street. There's no car parking, importantly, which is the first of its kind in Melbourne since 1955. There's 72 bike parks. It's got the highest ratio of bikes to apartments in Melbourne and in Australia. And the project cost was $7.1 million construction, and the site cost at that point in time was $545,000. So my role in the Commons was project instigator, design architect, along with Bonnie Herring from Breathe Architecture. She's going to talk to you about another one of our projects, Nightingale 1. 5 other architects in Melbourne to invest with me and my partner Tamara, the co-founder of Breathe, to buy the site in Brunswick, to rezone the site from industrial to commercial, to get the planning process, and then to get funding to build the project. Yes, in this instance, I am part architect, part developer. Developer comes with a number of connotations in this particular area in Melbourne because developers have been building kind of poor quality housing stock. So I prefer to think of myself as just an architect. Now, we want to bring developers into the tent, right? And, you can probably see some of that behind me in the background. We felt like that the agenda was all wrong. So it was about delivering housing for profit. And it's almost like the housing was a byproduct of the business model or the feasibility spreadsheet. Facing a climate crisis, a housing affordability crisis, a breakdown in our community. So for us, we wanted to prove that you could build a building that was simultaneously sustainable and affordable and built community, and that you could do all of those things simultaneously and kind of change the mindset around business as usual, development for profit. It's about building a owner-occupier community that would be stable. Yeah, we looked for a site that was well located, close to public transport, in an urban renewal area that was, not particularly popular at the time, so it was very affordable. It cost us, less than $1,000 a square metre at the time to buy. To be able to design the new system, we had to control the purse strings. We got other architects to invest with us. We set the triple bottom line agenda so that this building had to be simultaneously sustainable, affordable, and focus on community. The big goal for us was 0 cars and 0 carbon. Didn't quite hit the 0 carbon target, so there is still gas pumped into this building. Evolution of this building, Nightingale, that's carbon neutral in operation. We went through a rezoning process where we rezoned not just this site, but also 42 other sites in the surrounding area. So working closely with the local council about that. Yeah, there are 42 sites in the Anstey Urban Village precinct, and the Commons is one of those. It's immediately adjacent to a train station and a tram line and a bus line and a bike path. The Commons was one of the first buildings to be built. That would be kind of a beacon of hope for other developers coming in, build quality, livability, affordability, sustainability. But what actually happened was other buildings started coming up after that rezoning that were still kind of business as usual. And that's when Nightingale, the kind of evolution of the Commons, was born. to try and make sure that the commons was seen as a trend or a pathway rather than a blip on the radar. Is the rule rather than the exception. Immediately opposite from the commons, or diagonally opposite from the commons, is Nightingale 1, the first evolution, and then diagonally behind Nightingale 1 is Nightingale Anstey. 200 metres to the south is Nightingale Village, which is 6 Nightingale buildings, and in a carbon neutral precinct with a car share hub and 450 bikes precinct of 42 sites. There's 10 buildings like this. It's kind of the highest concentration of carbon neutral buildings in the country. We have an energy rating requirement, a minimum of 5 stars. The commons at 7.5 star, exponentially harder to get than the last. Temperate climate like Melbourne, once we got the building to 7.5 stars, our thermal modelling showed us that we didn't need to put in air conditioning, cross-ventilated in summer, and we heat it through hydronic heating, centralised boiler through winter, and reduce the cost of the build by about $350,000, but then also reduce the operational costs to the owners long term. Very, very cost effective to run. The common was sold to owner occupiers. On the open market, 22 out of 24 apartments were bought by owner occupiers. They're bought under what's called here a strata title. So essentially they own this sort of 3-dimensional space in the building, and they can buy and sell that as they need. And that's kind of bound under a legal mechanism called a body corporate. It's quarterly fees, and that covers building maintenance, to operate a building.
It's like a condo.
Correct. No title restriction. When we thought that the answer to housing affordability was in construction, by the time that we've built 10 Nightingale projects, our view on that is that the affordability piece actually happens much more in structuring and finance costs, impact investors, lower cost of equity, lower cost of debt. As we progressed, we got much more into designing a better kind of financial model rather than trying to save on the cost of the nuts and bolts in the building. We do that too. So there's no cap on the resale prices. And I think that, one of the things that inspired us to put the resale caveat in Nightingale was our disappointment at seeing the prices of the commons go through the roof. It's going from being one of the most affordable places to live in Brunswick to being one of the most expensive. What that told us was that the market was prepared to pay for sustainability and prepared to pay for community. But the problem was second-time owners, only people that were middle class or wealthy that could afford that. Yeah, we bought the site in 2007. We handed over the project. Everyone moved in 2013. In the middle of that, there was a global financial crisis. And so we lost our bank financing just before we were about to start construction. Impact investor called Small Giants had to take the project over, help fund the project with their balance sheet. This is the western side of the building. So we get hot western sun. Ficus shades the masonry behind. So it keeps the building cool downstairs. Don't have air conditioning. They have external blinds which shade the windows, and the offices down there. Local kind of biodiversity through here. Lots of local street artists around here. Middle of the building, that's the stairwell up through there. The western wall of the building is clad in a product called Ampolite, which is locally manufactured corrugated product. Behind that Ampolite is a 70mm cavity, which allows air to move up from the bottom of the building up through, and it's ventilated out through the parapet. The sustainability of reductionism. What can you take out to make the building more sustainable and more affordable? So by taking out the basement car park, rather than having a driveway and a roller door there to get into a car park, we've got a wine shop. Was sold to $425,000. Reduction in the car park construction costs saved the project $750,000. Those simple moves saved the project over $1.1 million, which we could then put back into, additional planting, additional landscaping. By the residents occupying the street and the cafes occupying the street, the cars, you basically see this as a pedestrian zone. There was a 1955 croissant bakery here, and that was demolished. Those bricks were saved and rebuilt. That graffiti was kind of re-put back in a pixelated way. So it kind of shows, obviously, the 1955 history of the building, but it also shows 1995 history. It's very unusual to have a fire stair, timber-framed doors, but there's timber-framed doors throughout the whole building, hand-painted signage, the lights above the doors. The car parking issue has been the single biggest threshold issue that we've faced in this building, and we continue to face. Despite being incredibly well located, you can see that's the train platform there. That's the bike path right there. The bus is up at that street corner there, and the tram is at the end of that street there. In Australia, policy decision makers can't imagine a future without cars. So this is a 75 square metre, at least 750 square feet apartment. It's a 2-bedroom apartment. It has 1 bathroom. Very, very simple bathroom. Lighting is just clipped to the concrete soffit, so it can be, easily moved and adapted. So normally most apartments would have plasterboard ceilings and all the electrical, plumbing and ductwork concealed in those. So you can see that the fire services are exposed, but by taking out the plasterboard ceilings, she saved about $100,000 out of construction cost. She saved all of the steel furring channels, the adhesive, the plasterboard itself. And then she increased the height of the apartments from 2.7 metres to 2.9 metres. So, it's like 9.5 feet. But the floors are recycled timber floorboards lifted from old schools and church halls and old houses in Melbourne. They're top nailed, not glued, which means at the end of this building's life, the floorboards can be lifted and reused. Underneath there is the main hydronic heating line, the main electrical services line. If you want to change something, you can get into that duct and access those to be able to change services over time. The cabinetry is made from form ply, so made in Victoria from plantation pine, not generally used as joinery, but it's very cheap and very, very tough. The sinks are made in Western Australia. They're made from copper, not stainless steel. Wherever there's concrete structure, like the floor slab above, that's exposed, or structural blade walls, that's exposed. Precast concrete columns, post-tension concrete floor slabs. So the floor slabs are formed up on site, and then the precast panels are made off site with good double glazing, outside here with a lift and slide door. They have hardware that's designed in Austria. By using those to insulate the building outside, exposing our thermal mass inside, it means that we have very, very stable building temperatures inside the apartment. And then we have this light court which comes down into the core of the building. Yeah, so all of the apartments are cross-ventilated, light to the bedrooms. The building's only 5 floors tall. The north side of the roof is productive gardens. There's blackboards upstairs and downstairs, laundry, and then the rooftop deck kind of opens up, has views down to the city, and then kind of, places to hang out. And the mantra on this building, build less, give more. So we take out the basement car park, but we give much more bicycle parking. We take out the individual laundry, give a wine shop. We take out the second bathroom, so there's no en-suites. There's just 1 bathroom in each 2-bedroom apartment, but the living rooms get bigger. We have a shared rooftop laundry with 6 great front-loading washing machines in there, and then a great kind of, rooftop area.
What would you say is the most innovative aspect of the project?
Is actually accepting that the housing system was broken and designing a new system to be able to fund that. Setting the agenda up front to build sustainability and community into the deliverables on the project. From a built form outcome, trying to approach a building that was zero carbon. Whole mantra of build less, give more. Take things out to make the building more sustainable, to make it more affordable, and to make it better.
Appreciate
Okay, cool.
Your time, Jeremy.
All right, see you later, mate.